Health, with diagnoses, diseases, functional diversity, and self rated health, is the first area that determines whether we can and want to work, and we find it in the first determinant sphere for a sustainable working life in its wage model, which is called the work environment's effects on health. In the middle of this wage model, at its core, we find this graphic: sustainable working life for all ages. When reflecting on what we aim for when creating a sustainable working life for all ages, it is that a larger amount of people should experience well-being and health so that they can cope with working life. But what is health? And how are supportive environments that promote health and well-being in working life created? Take a few moments to consider and reflect on the following questions. Is illness and ill health the same thing? Is well-being and good health the same thing? Does health always mean the same, despite different situations, in different cultures, and during different times? What does health and ill health, respectively, mean to you? What does health mean? According to Merriam-Webster's thesaurus, health means the condition of being sound in body, or a condition in which someone or something is thriving or doing well, or a toast to someone's health or prosperity. In other words, there are several meanings of health. Ways of perceiving health has changed with time. Hippocrates is sometimes considered the father of modern medicine. He was considered to be almost free of superstition. Hippocrates considered illness to be caused by nature and not by gods. The main theme of his writings was that medicine should be supported by observation, experience, and critical judgment, and not by religion, speculations, and magic. He wrote about diagnostic methods, diets, hygiene, how cities and houses should be constructed to create healthy environments, as well as the significance of physical exercise. To listen, converse, and sing were regarded to put the body in a state of energy-intensive work, with consequent beneficial effects on energy balance and weight control. The doctor's task was to map out the patient's external conditions and make a thorough examination of the patient, support the nature's healing powers through mainly changes in lifestyle and diet, as well as informing the patient of the prognosis of the illness. At the end of the 19th century, people began to consider that illness unfolded in the cells of the ill body's organs. Bacteriology was developed in the 1860s after Pasteur discovered bacteria. However, it was not until 1928 that Fleming discovered penicillin as a treatment to bacterial illness. Cellular pathology meant a revolution to medicine, with new ways of thinking in all medicinal areas. The study of the onset illness as disturbances in the cells were developed. All processes of illness in the body were thought to be caused by disturbances in the cells. The biostatic way of viewing health dominated in the 20th century. Medicine and surgery were the only treatments thought to be effective. Illness and ill health in a person were not thought to be curable through lifestyle, social participation, and walks. Treatment facilities, drinking from wells and taking walks as a way of treating illness, were considered outdated. Mental institutions that previously had used the large parks as a way of treatment switched to electroconvulsive therapy and lobotomy. Sanatorium treatments of fresh air, outside rests, and walks in beautiful surroundings with woods and nature were replaced with lung clinics in the cities. Genetics were considered important to maintain a healthy race in the population. Social engineering was based on socially beneficial studies of heredity in order to strengthen the public health. Health is important in order to participate in working life. Health is affected by several factors. For example, the development of welfare in society, socioeconomic factors, individual lifestyle, etc. Different factors are weighed together and sometimes called determinants of health. The picture shows how different levels affect the individual's health. Health is not only determined by biostatic factors, but also by mental, social, cultural, and societal factors that sometimes are out of the individual's ability and control. There are several ways of defining health that we will not dive deeply into during this course. However, we will look a little bit closer on some different definitions. Physical health means the body's physiological and mechanic functions. Mental and cognitive health is the ability to think clearly and coherently. Emotional health is the ability to experience and cope with emotions like fright, joy, anger, etc. Social health is the ability to create and maintain social relations with others and in society. Spiritual health, which is about life philosophy, principles of behavior, as well as peace of mind. Societal health means that a person's health is affected by and depends on everything in their surrounding environment. Therefore, it may be hard to experience well-being and health in an unhealthy society that lacks resources for basic physical needs such as food, clothing, accommodation, etc. It may be hard to experience well-being and health in a society that lacks human rights, basic health care, communication, and possibility for recreation. Furthermore, it is hard to experience health and well-being as unemployed or outside working life in a society that values occupational efforts. Well then, how is health defined today? We will discuss 3 examples of health definitions related to the 3 levels of individual level, organizational level, and societal level. WHO defined health in the 1940s as WHO first and foremost studies health on a societal level and how individuals function in their social surroundings. Their definition is: health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely by the absence of disease or infirmity. The healthcare's definition of health has traditionally, since the mid-1800s, been concerned with selves and standard values that typically are based on young men. The biostatic health definition dominates in healthcare, where health is defined through standard values and normal distribution curves, and deviations from these are defined as ill health or disease. However, this definition has some shortcomings. All ailments today cannot be measured or quantified. This means that people who experience ill health but do not display any biostatical deviations are not perceived as ill according to this definition. In other words, this way of defining health has issues when deciding whether a person can cope with their work or not. How we experience our own health does not solely depend on how we feel, but also how we cope. During studies, we have met elderly farmers who can barely walk due to tear and injuries from working life. but that want to keep working since they experience well-being and sound health when working. At the same time, we have met well-paid professors who cannot wait to retire from a stressful working life, characterized by high competition where they feel they cannot trust anyone and therefore experience ill health, despite them not having any measurable ill health or diagnosis. Nordenfelt has defined health on an individual level. A person A is completely healthy if and only if A is in a mental and bodily state giving standard circumstances, which is such that A has the second order ability to realize all his or her vital goals. In other words, the state of affairs which are necessary and together sufficient for A's minimal happiness in the long run. There are three determinant or explanatory levels of an individual's health. The first is that health means not to deviate from the norm in society. This is based on the surrounding society's objective view of the individual's health. Societal adjustments to people with functional diversity in various environments and the possibility of adjusting work environments for people with functional diversity or illness. The second is that health means not having a diagnosed illness. This is based on the healthcare and social security system's objective view of the individual's health. Diagnosis and treatments, assessments whether an individual is able to work or not. The third one is that health means experience of feeling well. This is based on the own experience and subjective view of an individual's own health in their daily life. If people experience well-being or not. What do you think about these three explanatory levels of health? All three ways of determining and explaining health have different functions, and they are all needed in order to create a sustainable working life for all ages. As you can see, there are several ways of defining health. We will examine individuals' experience of health, since this can affect the individual's health development. This dual continuum model of health can be said to show how health has different dimensions. During life, we move across the different areas of the model. It can even change during the course of the day. For example, if we have a cold, become stressed, have a headache, etc., or if we suddenly recover from illness or suddenly experience well-being. In spite of having a chronic disease or diagnosis in a medical sense, people can still experience well-being. For example, by experiencing joy of living, belief in the future, if they have a work, if they experience a sense of security and have sound social relations. Others, that according to healthcare and social security systems are not ill, can still experience ill health and feel bad. In the work of preventing ill health, we strive towards the dimension of not experiencing ill health and not having a diagnosis. However, many of us do have some sort of diagnosis, and therefore it's important to create supportive environments so that we, despite our illness, can experience well-being. Take for example the girl to the upper left, who has a genetic diagnosis that causes hair to grow over the entire body. If she is accepted the way she is, she will not have a problem to experience well-being. However, if she has a hard time being accepted, if she has a hard time finding work as an adult because of the way she looks and is subjected to disregard and discrimination, it would situate her in a different dimension of the model, where she both has a medical diagnosis and does not experience well-being. This in turn can cause mental diagnosis, for example depression. There is also a dimension where people feel bad and experience a lack of well-being, despite not having a medical diagnosis and not being perceived as ill in a medical sense. Take for example the boy in the bottom right, growing up in a situation where he might be subjected to injury and maybe does not have sufficient support and security growing up. He may run the risk of developing an injury and illness in a medical sense in the future. Therefore, it's important to provide a supportive environment that is preventive both for injury and for illness. The same applies to work environment. In order to promote a sustainable working life for all ages and for people with diverse health and experience of well-being. Individuals' experience of their own health affects their ability to work. Therefore, it also affects a sustainable working life for all ages. The experience of health is important, and it matters, for example, regarding the risk of mortality. Studies have been conducted with two people suffering from the same stage of, for example, cancer, with the same diagnostic criteria and biostatic evidence for illness. The risk of mortality, or risk of death, for the person who experienced themselves as ill is several times larger than the risk of mortality for the person with the same diagnosis who experienced that they feel well in spite of their illness. Health cannot be seen as an individual's private matter. Health is something that is affected by the circumstances in the environment we live in. Environment does not only include air, water, earth, emissions, etc. It also includes societal, social, cultural, financial, political, and ideological structures in society. Based on this view, the term supportive environment has been developed to be a strategy and a tool in health promotive work and measures. The supportive environment includes people's physical, mental, and social environment that should be supportive and help people maintain or regain their health to the greatest extent possible. Guidelines and directives, for example, the European Union Directive 89/391 EEC, is of great significance and is a supportive tool to create sustainable and supportive environments in the workplace. For example, there are guidelines on systematic work environment management, organizational and social work environment, as well as ergonomic guidelines. Please take a few moments to consider and reflect on the following questions. Where are you situated in the dual continuum model of health? At what occasions have you been in the different areas of the dual continuum model of health? Does your surroundings share your perception of where you are situated in the dual continuum model of health? When do you experience your health at its best? In what supportive environment are you at those times, and what constitutes your supportive environment in these occasions? Are there or can supportive environments for health be created in your surroundings? Do you contribute to someone else's supportive environment for health?